girls and boys. Glad to have you back today for our next reading of Lifeboat 12. I'm going to start calling these my fireside chats because I'm sitting near the fire and kind of like President Roosevelt used to do during the Great Depression. He would have these fireside chats, kind of, even though they really weren't in front of a fireplace, they were at his desk in the White House. But they kind of called them fireside chats because it was soothing and it helped kind of calm the fears of the Americans back then during that Great Depression. So, welcome to my fireside chat. Yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, you'll notice it kind of ended abruptly because, excuse me, because you can only do a 15-minute span on each of these videos and then it cuts you off. So today I'm going to be a little more cognizant of the time. In fact, you're going to hear the alarm go off at some point, just like at school when you're getting ready in the afternoon, and that will tell me that our time has run out for today. So, welcome back. All right. So they're still in that lifeboat, trying to stay alive. Daylight brings stretching, prayers, no breakfast. I dry my face with Mr. Nagorski's newspaper and borrow Cadet Critchley's comb. I help the sailors stand watch, hoping to spot a plane, a ship on the horizon. I notice most Indian sailors rinse their mouths along with their faces. Why do they do that? I asked Father O'Sullivan. It's a religious ritual they perform before they pray, says Father. Aren't they afraid they'll swallow the seawater? Yes, they have to be careful. But as I watch, I see one man who doesn't spit the water out. I see him swallow salt water. Officer Cooper and Father O'Sullivan synchronize their wristwatches, the only two watches on board. Time stretches ahead of us, hours of floating to the distant horizon with not much to do. Hours and hours of endless time until we remember we have only 7 days left of water. Our time is running out. Right, says Cooper. Time for a new plan. We're going to make for Ireland. What about waiting for the rescue ship, asks Mr. Nagorski. It must have missed us somehow, says Cooper. Auntie Mary looks alarmed, and Howard starts to cry. How shall we get home, he asks. Chins up, says Cooper. The current has been pushing us east, pushing us to shore all this time. Now we'll help it along. Buxa, have your crew man the Fleming gear. I look at Cooper's face, steady with determination. If we aren't going to be picked up one way, we're going to get to Ireland. Nobody has the slightest intention of ever giving up. No. It's up to us to save ourselves. We're going to row home, maximum speed, 2 to 3 knots, but with the Fleming gear, anyone can row. You just push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. With flattening seas, this stiff westerly wind could whisk us along. Too rough before, says Cooper, but now we can sail. Purvis frees the canvas rolled up under the floorboards. Cooper hoists a sail up. I've never been on a sailboat before. It's lovely the way the wind allows my friends and me to sit back, breathe out, and watch the sail billow and fill, blowing us home. Did you see the hole the torpedo blew in the ship, I ask? Did you see the hole by our old playroom? Without a lie, you could have put 2 double-decker buses in that hole, says Fred. Derek and Billy, holes in their hearts, ask again about their little brothers. I shared a bunk bed with Alan at home, says Derek. I'd read to him, and he would read back to me. He could tie his shoelaces, and he's only 5. Peter's just a wee bairn, and he's getting lost, says Billy. I promised Ma. Father O'Sullivan puts his arm around their shoulders and whispers a prayer. Billy stares at the floorboards and starts to choke. I reach over to pat his back. Where are their brothers? Not one, not even Father O'Sullivan has any answers for them. Lunch at noon. Birds swimming when the sea is calm. Sailors plotting our course, manning the Fleming gear when the wind dies, standing watch. Dinner at 6. But for us boys, there's nothing to do. At least Robinson Crusoe had a shelter to build, food to hunt, clothes to sew, sheep to raise, paper and ink to write, but for us, there's nothing to occupy our time, nothing to see but the sea, an ocean of gray melting into mist that rises to the steely sky. There's nothing to break the horizon, or the rows of relentless waves marching us to the ends of the earth. One look at our faces and Critchley says, "Right, you boys, we need your help. You can man the Fleming gear." "I know how," I say. I show the other boys, and we take turns pushing and pulling. At least the exercise keeps us warm. We help bail the boat and stand on watch just like proper sailors. I scan the horizon, search the seas and skies for a ship or a seaplane I recognize from my plane spotter's guide. I sketch a warship in the drops of salt water dotting the deck. Terry would draw it better than I do. We would make a good team, Terry and I, here on watch. "Bombed at home or torpedoed at sea?" I ask Auntie Mary. Then turn it into a game we play for something to do, something to say. I ask each boy in turn. "Not bombed at home," says Derek. "Torpedoed at sea," says Billy. "Torpedoed at sea," we all agree. Just wait till we lads get at home. What a story we'll have to tell. Paul is silent, staring, suffering. "How's your foot, Paul?" I ask. He cut his heel on broken glass at his cabin when the torpedo hit. "Oh, it hurts so much," he says. "The salt water stings." He takes his sandals off. "They're just too tight," he says. I see his feet have swollen and leak stinging pus from open sores. I cover my nose and turn away. "Trench foot," whispers Father O'Sullivan to Auntie Mary. My shoes feel tight now. I loosen the laces and see my feet are swelling. Will I get trench foot? I shudder. Too much water on our feet and not enough down our throats. "Remember the water in our cabins?" asked Derek. "The water in a carafe changed every day? I remember trying the water, and it was so good. Nice, chilled water." Water. A whole carafe of clear, fresh, clean water. I'd trade my bike for just one glass of water now, I say. "I'd trade my shrapnel collection," says Derek. "I'd give me go-karts," says Billy. Boys, says Auntie Mary, quickly placing a hand on Billy's arm. "How about a game?" "You know that game, don't you?" says Mary. "Derek, we'll play I Spy. You go first." "I spy something white," he says. "The sail? The cloud? The crew's tunics? Your buttons?" "Right, Fred. Now you go." I spy. Fred looks all around and suddenly stops, and he whispers, "I spy someone crying." It's Paul. He looks up and winces. "My feet, they hurt so much." "Let me help you," says Mary, moving over to put her arm around Paul. "You boys keep playing. Ken, you take a turn." I spy wet boys. Father O'Sullivan, feverish, seasick, praying crewmen, worried looks between officers. I don't want to play I Spy anymore. Throats dry, glassy-eyed, we slump to the floorboards and stare, unseeing. Auntie Mary looks from face to face and stops at mine. "Ken, are you all right?" she asks. I look up into her warm brown eyes. Auntie Mary sees what I see. She realizes we may die. Not of hunger, not of thirst, not of exhaustion. Not yet, anyway. Sounds odd to say, but it's true. We may die of the doldrums as the days drift by. You know that doldrums means just kind of like boredom. "How about a story?" she says. "It's called, The Case of the Kidnapped Pilots." 6 boys were riding their bikes in the English countryside when a British plane roared over the coast with a left-wing fighter plane on its tail. The aircraft swooped and dove while the sound of machine gun fire filled the air high above the boys' heads. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat, then boom! The Brit was hit. A parachute floated down as the plane spiraled to the ground. Crash! The boys raced down the road, following the trail of smoke. "Look," says Ken, "there's the pilot. He's still alive." The pilot was bleeding badly. Howard tore off his shirt, ripped it into pieces, and tied tourniquets around the man's wounds. The pilot muttered, "The pouch, get the pouch." Paul found it in the folds of the parachute. "Take care of him," says Ken. "I'll go get help." He strapped the pouch across his chest and scrambled onto his bike. Ken had a friend who lived nearby, a piano teacher named Mary. She'll know what to do, he thought. One look at the courier pouch and Mary picked up the phone. "This," she said, "is a job for Bulldog Drummond." Bulldog, I say. We all know about Bulldog, the hero of dozens of British books and films, who always beats the scoundrels. Auntie Mary smiles, folds her hands, and says, "That's all the story for today." "Come on, don't stop," I say. "Mary, please continue," says Paul. But Mary means what she says, and can't be persuaded otherwise. I see a small smile on her lips. Thanks to her, I see we now have something to think about, something besides hunger, thirst, and cold. As the misty air clears and the red sun sets, a double rainbow arcs over us. All the colors of the world lighten and brighten our day, just as Bulldog has. Cold, so cold, we shiver together, wrapped in 2 blankets for the 6 of us. The temperature has plunged since yesterday. Chunks of ice the sailors call growlers, float by us. It grows dark, but it's hard to sleep crumpled in the bottom of the boat with the thwarts in your back. I close my eyes, and just as I start to doze off, whoosh! A wall of ice-cold water washes over the side, soaking us all. I sit up choking, spluttering, wiping the salt from my eyes. The blanket is soaked, stone cold. I can't stop shaking. I can't see who it is, but I hear Auntie Mary whisper, "Don't you realize that you're the heroes of a real adventure story? There isn't a boy in England." Just going to finish this chapter. "There isn't a boy in England who wouldn't give his eyes to be in your shoes." Did you ever hear of a hero who sniveled? Right she is. Bulldog Drummond would never snivel. And just like that, the sniveling stops. The stars whirl in the sky, and I sleep. All right, so they're shivering cold. It's gotten colder, and that's where we're going to have to stop for today. Hopefully, they got rescued soon because it sounds like they're in rather dire straits now. I won't be reading over the weekend because I don't want you guys having to do work, and unless you want to do work over the weekend, that's entirely up to you. But I won't be reading, so tune in again on Monday for the rest of the story. Take care. See you soon.